Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Andrew Stedl podcast. I am Andrew, and I have my special guest Tex with me today.
Hello.
We are going to be reviewing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Good Boys. So the first one on our agenda is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tex, I'll let you go first since you have some pretty strong feelings about this one.
I appreciate that, Andrew. And thank you for having me on your show. And
Oh, no problem, man.
I'm not sure how to start it off. Other than, I was really upset with this movie. When I walked out of the movie at the end, I was not happy. I was disappointed and I was a little angry. Quentin Tarantino, he has a really large fan base and very devoted fan base, and I'm not going to say that I'm one of his devoted fans, but I like Pulp Fiction,
I think that's his most grounded film, in my opinion. That's like, the way that he did that film was definitely the most, like, story structure-wise, probably one of his best films. I can't really think of any other ones. Maybe, I don't know. That's really the only one I can offhand think of that's actually structured very well. But what about that one do you like?
I came out when I was in high school, so I was very impressionable. And back then, these kinds of action movies that were coming out back then, just, me and my peers, we were very, we just like worshipped these kind of movies, and Pulp Fiction was like the king, it was like the king of all action movies. It was the king of coolness. It was the king of, just everything. Like, it was just a badass movie. With that being said, I'll just be straight up. Quentin Tarantino, he knows how to make, the visuals, movie, like what you have on screen, look really good. Everything looks really shiny. The cinematography looks good. The way he frames everything, the way he frames the actors, the way he frames the scenes, and the way the scenes play out throughout the movie. Like, he's really good at that. I just don't think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was anything spectacular in that regard. And as far as the story and narrative, I found it to be, just like pointless. There was, if you're going to take some real life facts and fictionalize them, I would still like a point. I'd still like to have some kind of reason for what's being presented on the screen. And, the fact, we've talked about this before, the Bruce Lee interpretation he had.
I want to, like, chime in on that because that scene to me was just, I don't know, that rubbed me the wrong way that scene was completely done, because I had ended up doing research about Bruce Lee on this, and everyone basically unanimously said Bruce Lee was nothing like that, the way Quentin Tarantino presented him in that scene, that's not at all how he acted in real life at all. He didn't act arrogant and cocky. He was a very nice man, actually, apparently, to some people. And personally, I just think that the scene was distasteful. The actor looks like Bruce Lee, I'll say that, but, doesn't really speak like him, and the way that he was acting was kind of just disrespectful, if you ask me. But
it was really offensive to me. Yeah. I agree about the actor, like, looking like Bruce Lee and coming off as Bruce Lee visually. But the way that scene played out and the way it was interpreted, and you already gave a spoiler review, right? Or a disclaimer?
Before we continue, since we haven't really spoiled anything, since that was in the trailer, and I know some people don't watch the trailer, spoilers will be said throughout this review. So
the fact that Brad Pitt's character is the one that challenges Bruce Lee, and and sort of gets the best of Bruce Lee in just the way that played out was just offensive to me. And just I saw no reason to fictionalize this moment. Like, why would you even do this if you're gonna and that leads me to as well to Sharon Tate.
I have some very strong feelings about that. Okay, so in my opinion, Margot Robbie has had some really good roles, and my problem with her in this film is she looks nothing like Sharon Tate and does not sound anything like Sharon Tate. And it really bothered me when she went down to go and sit down and watch that movie that she was in. And I'm sitting there, and Margot Robbie's doing a really good job pretending that that's her on screen. But no, it doesn't look anything like her. There's no likeness. But how do you feel about that?
I actually liked Margot Robbie's portrayal of Sharon Tate, and that's actually one of my favorite scenes when she goes to the movie theater. Simply because, she doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie.
Apparently there's a 3-hour version of this movie that they're going to release with more Sharon Tate, but that's we'll see if that actually comes out or not.
Well, for the time being, for what we saw, she doesn't have a lot of lines, and so this sequence where she goes to the movie theater to go see her own movie, and she was debating whether or not she wanted to without speaking a word. A lot of those scenes that. A lot of the sequence, Margot Robbie wasn't speaking. She had to act through her face, her eyes, her smile, her body language. And that sequence was, it went on for a little bit, and I really appreciated it. Like, that was one of my favorite scenes.
Well, I'll give her this. She did do a really good job with what she had to do. I appreciate what she did, and I do think she's a fantastic actor.
Yeah, and going back to the fictionalization that Quentin Tarantino utilizes for his movie, just leading up to what everyone probably expected, which was Sharon Tate's murder.
Yeah.
Leading up to that, we got this cameo from Charles Manson himself, and he strolls into the scene like a California cowboy. And he's looking cool, and he speaks a couple lines, and I just didn't like that he was portrayed as someone that looked cool on screen. Never should Charles Manson look like he's cool in anything. He's a murderer.
Oh, absolutely. He's a scumbag, and
he's a racist.
I don't feel sorry for the fact that he died. And some people aren't going to like that I say that, but he was just a terrible human being, if you ask me, in my opinion.
And so he does this, and then Charles Manson walks off the scene, and he's walking away cool, and I just didn't like that. I'm just like, and then Sharon Tate at the end isn't the one who gets killed, and Leonardo DiCaprio brings out a flamethrower at the end sequence, and there's all this Quentin Tarantino stereotypical violent scenes and stuff.
Yeah, that part was kind of a little overkill. And let's get into. I'm going to get into a little bit of a problem that I have with that scene. Okay, so the lead up to that scene is that Brad Pitt's character bought early on a cigarette with LSD on it. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that wouldn't do anything to you, from what I've researched on. If you dip a cigarette in LSD, that won't do anything. That's not how it works. You won't get high off that. Now,
was it LSD? Sure. And was it acid?
I think it was acid or LSD, one or the other. I believe so. And from what I've read online, that won't do anything. Literally nothing will happen, because that's just not how it works. But this movie likes to pretend that is how it works, and that's why everything happens in the end, and everybody's shooting and all that. At least that's what the internet claims, but I don't know. That scene was just a little, to me, a little overkill.
Yeah, so that scene leads up to Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt basically killing off all the people in Manson's group who went to Cielo Drive and went and killed Sharon Tate and the people she was with. And instead of going to Sharon Tate's house, they went to their house, and they all ended up dead or injured or running away, and I just felt like, why is this movie like existing? What was this movie for? Why did they do this? What was the whole point of this? And the only thing I could come up with was money. Quentin Tarantino wanted to use some historical names, some factual names,
fancy cars. Some really nice fancy cars that were old that he probably owned,
and just make a quick buck. And
Oh, he did it already. He made over like $100 million on this thing, man, first week, and that's only from like Russia first week that he got like $100 million. So of course he made his money on this. But yeah, he did this for the money. He did it because he had the power to do it because he's Quentin Tarantino, and I read this, that he had the rights to look at the final cut of the film and approve of it himself, and apparently not a lot of directors are allowed to do that, from what I understand.
So, not everyone is. I'm not surprised that he did, though. I would imagine he can call his own shots.
Well, and we're going to get into a little bit of a controversial conversation in a second about this, but yeah, because originally this film was supposed to be released like 2 years ago, apparently, with the Weinstein Company, and then I guess that just never happened since that whole situation happened.
Well, I had no idea about that, but I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. But
there's not much to say.
Yeah, you're going back to some of the dumber things about this movie, because it was dumb to portray Charles Manson in this cool scene as this cool California cowboy dude who just strolls in and looks cool and acts cool. I think it was dumb to use Sharon Tate in this fictionalized way to change like what happened in history for the movie in this weird, purposeless way. The insulting scene with Bruce Lee, but there's a lot of scenes in here where they're riding around in cars, and just not talking, like especially with Roman Polanski's character, like he drives around. Him and Sharon Tate drive around a lot, and they're just driving around. And I don't really see any talent of filming a car just driving around. It's a cool car, and there's some background that looks like it's from that time period, but it's just a couple of actors in a car, riding around.
Well, yeah. Because this film was all shot on a set. He rebuilt all the buildings and all that, and he bought out these buildings so he could rebuild this in this area. So yeah, he spent some money and he made it look all pretty and shot it to make it look good. Yeah, those scenes are kind of padding, and that's what they would call it in Hollywood, padding for viewing. But we really should talk about the whole Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Clinton Booth, I believe it is.
And the meta movie in a movie.
Yeah,
that whole clever. You're so clever, Quentin.
Or can we talk about how offensive the Steve McQueen scene was? Oh my God, that scene was just.
Which one?
I don't know how you feel about the one where they're at the Playboy Mansion, where it's in the dark and you can barely see the actor. That scene was filmed kind of bad, in my opinion. The way that they did that scene. The
Playboy Mansion scene?
Yeah.
Well, that's like my scene.
Well, no, not the whole scene. I mean the part where it's Steve McQueen. Besides, after that scene is pretty cool, actually. But the scene at the beginning where it's in the dark and you can barely see Steve McQueen, and then I got a really good look at him, and I was like, yeah, I guess he looks okay like Steve McQueen, but he's not, doesn't really sound a lot like him, and I had a lot of issues with that. But what's your opinion on that scene?
After the Sharon Tate scene in the movie theater, looking at her own movie, the next best scene that I liked was the Playboy Mansion sequence. Right when Sharon Tate walks up to it, and right away, it was Michelle Phillips and Mama Cass that she walked up to from the Mamas and the Papas, and I didn't need that spoon fed to me. I knew exactly who they were, and I give Quentin Tarantino credit, because that whole sequence where Michelle Phillips and Mama Cass walk up to Sharon Tate and they like greet each other, and they're all happy, and the party's going on around them, and they stroll outside and they start dancing. Like I was in love. There's certain things about that time period that I really love. And all of it came together for that. The music, the fact that it was Michelle Phillips and Mama Cass, because I love the Mamas and the Papas. The way they were dancing out there, and you just felt it. Like I felt like it was that time period, and I thought that he nailed it. And Steve McQueen's part in that sequence, I actually liked too. I mean, like I'm not his biggest fan, or like
right.
I don't dislike him or anything, but
No, because I said that because I'm a big Steve McQueen fan, and I didn't really think that the actor looked very much like Steve McQueen, in my opinion, and that just kind of bothered me. That just happened to me a couple times in this movie where they showed people, and I was like, well, that doesn't really look like them very much. And I know that that's a nitpick, some people would say, but that's just a complaint that I had about the film.
From what I knew, what I know of Steve McQueen, and seeing him in that sequence, like. To me, I thought he came off like I'm like, okay, he's supposed to be Steve McQueen. I believe it. But I'm speaking as someone who's like, I guess I'm not as big a fan as you are. I don't dislike the guy or not, whatever. I just, I'm not, I'm not as well versed with him. But I felt like it was Steve McQueen whenever. I don't know how he talks or whatever either, so I don't know about that part, but. I did like the Playboy sequence in general. The Playboy Mansion party sequence. It was very cool. One of the coolest things about the movie.
Yeah, because that whole scene where they're all like dancing, that's actually a very fun scene, and I do appreciate that. Which we should note that this movie does have a lot of good music in it. At the very least, a lot of really good appropriate music for the time period. Yeah, Quentin Tarantino went all out for that, definitely, for sure. I wish he'd put more effort into the movie, though.
Yeah, and he actually did, if you think about it, he did 2 movies in this movie. He did the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then this Western that Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick.
I'll be honest with you. I would have rather had the Western movie. It looked more interesting somehow.
I was really annoyed by the whole Western movie taking over Once Upon a Time, like, just the Western movie. So, they did these scenes where they showed the Western actors, Leonardo DiCaprio, Luke Perry, among others. Rest in peace. I
forgot he was in here.
Rest in peace, Luke Perry.
I forgot.
They did these scenes where they tried to show that they're filming the movie, so they had like Leonardo DiCaprio's character act, and then he like broke character because he forgot his line, but the movie would continue as if though it was like some kind of meta movie, like it was like this movie within a movie thing. And so like the camera, they would look at the camera as if the camera was filming them, even though the camera was supposed to be for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then not every time did they do that. They didn't like say cut, and the Western movie would just like, it was like edited as if it was a movie. So these scenes where they tried to talk to the camera and get their lines and not cut, and like they're filming a movie, it didn't connect with the scenes after where they stopped doing that and they treated it like a real movie. It was just annoying all around. I'm not a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan too, so having him act multiple roles and being an actor who is struggling as an actor and wants to be loved as an actor, I found it really.
I can totally understand where you're coming from. I'll be honest with you. I kind of am a Leonardo DiCaprio fan, so none of that, particularly that part where his story arc really bothered me. What you pretty much laid it all out, how like it was inconsistent the way they were cutting and all that, and how the camera was on the Once Upon a Time camera and not the the movie camera. Okay, so what really bothered me though about that whole scene was that. So the other movies the fake movies that they film it as if it's in 60 millimeter or whatever. But in this one, they just put it on the normal camera for no reason and don't change it at all. And it's really annoying because it's inconsistent, and that's a really bad flaw of the film, in my opinion, the way that they did that.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And it added to the pointlessness of the whole movie. It's like, what's the point? What's the point of...
It's as if Quentin Tarantino should have actually had a studio look at this before, because it obviously wasn't finished. I'm sorry. It wasn't obviously a finished product. And if there's this so-called 3-hour edit of the film, was it going to be freaking finished this time? Is it going to actually be a finished product? Because I feel like the movie we got was like half finished. Yeah, it looks pretty and it looks like it's a finished movie, but like the story like is all over the place and there's no consistent like plot line. Yeah, Cliff Booth is like the only really like straight consistent story we get. Okay, yeah, they like coexist, I guess, but like it's really just an inconsistent story. But I don't know how you feel about that.
No, yeah, I agree with what you said. I think it's funny that usually studio interference is a bad thing, I think, but in this particular case, if Quentin Tarantino did call the shots, then yeah, I think we could have used some studio interference on this one.
I listen, I know that he like acts like he's really proud of the final product of his movies, but you know, yeah, this one he could have just hired an editor to look at this. Cause I doubt that he edited this himself. There's no way. Jeez. Also, there's like so like there's like one weird cut at the beginning where they're at the bar and like Al Pacino's character, I believe it's Al Pacino's character, which he's not very this movie very much. Which I did love every scene that he was on the screen. I was like, oh, sweet, Al Pacino's here. Okay, he's in here for like 15 minutes. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go cry in the corner. There's a scene where he's talking to Cliff Booth and he's like, oh, do you drive your car? Oh, no, I don't drive anymore. Oh, no, that's getting old. And it inconsistently cuts into Brad Pitt's character doing a monologue, like narration. And they only do this once where it's like, oh, that's a frickin' lie. He got too many DUIs. And I thought maybe that was going to be a consistent thing that they would do in the film for editing. But no, they just do it once and it doesn't really make a lot of sense why it just came out of nowhere, which we should also talk about why there's random narration towards the end of the film by Kurt Russell for no reason. Absolutely at all. It's not explained at all. Because Kurt Russell's character doesn't come back into this movie at all. So it really doesn't make any sense why it's even there. But how do you feel?
It almost feels like Quentin Tarantino made this movie with little sense purposely, so that, because he knew that his hardcore fans wouldn't deviate from their fandom. Oh, and right. Regardless, you know, Quentin Tarantino could have put a pile of poo on a plate and just filmed it for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and all his true fans would still be like, dude, you just don't get it. You just don't get it. It's Quentin Tarantino, man. You just don't get it. Yeah, you know, I think that I think he probably thought more about his devoted fans here than general audiences, because honestly...
Oh, absolutely. Positively.
I think it was purpose. He did a lot of this on purpose to not have points, just so you could hear people complain. And then have his defenders come and be like, "Oh, well, you know, you just don't get art." Well, I got news for you. I don't need my art spoon-fed to me. Like, I get art, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is not art. It's just a money grab. And honestly, it's kind of, I think Quentin Tarantino was on an ego trip during this movie, along with along with Leo and probably Brad Pitt too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But he definitely also, which we're gonna this might be controversial, might be not be if I bring this up. But Quentin Tarantino has stated that he likes feet a lot. Well, this movie likes to tell you, hey, Quentin Tarantino likes feet because there's a lot of nasty, dirty feet in this movie. We did not bring this up. Because there's a lot of scenes that blatantly show women's dirty feet in this film, and it's really confusing. And
I've gotten used to that over the years, you know. Uma Thurman and Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill.
I didn't notice it back then.
The Kill Bill movies I actually liked as well.
Kill Bill,
they're a little violent, but
Oh, I like that about them.
The whole foot thing, like, I got used to that pretty much in Pulp Fiction. I'm like, you know, he focused on Uma Thurman's feet in that movie, and he never stopped since then, so.
That's true. I guess I just never really thought about it until I saw this movie. That's just something weird that I thought I'd bring up.
No, but yeah, Margot Robbie's feet in that scene in the movie, they were dirty.
It's like he just rubbed some, like, chocolate all over it or something, not really dirt.
But hey, you know, maybe that's a little bit realistic, because a lot of us, those of us who walk around barefoot a lot, you know, hey, that's what our feet look like.
I mean, I'll say this, some of the actors kind of did have chipped teeth, which I really appreciated. Not very many movies actually show that. I thought that was kind of cool, actually, but it wasn't consistent, because there was, like, scenes where, like, everybody's, like, teeth would, like, look perfect. And then there was, like, a couple scenes where, like, the Manson people had, like, a little bit of a chipped tooth or something. But I don't know, how do you feel about that one? Or did you notice something like that?
No, I didn't notice, actually. So I don't have anything to say about it, I suppose.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm the only one who notices stuff like that randomly when it's in a movie. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe somebody in the comments can help me with that one. But do you want to give your rating, or is there anything else you want to talk about in this movie? Because I'm kind of done.
Refresh my memory on how we do our ratings on your show.
Okay, so we're just going to come up with the wing on this one. So would you either rent this movie, go see this in the theater, or buy it on DVD?
None of the above.
So you would put it back in the dollar store.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my rating.
I saw it in the theater, right? So there's that. But am I ever going to watch it again? No.
But the other rating that I'm also going to put, if a movie is, like, worth checking out but not going to a theater or buying it or anything, is Redboxing. But yeah, I'm putting this back in the dollar store, because I can appreciate the really nice shots that are in this film and all that, and I really do appreciate, like, you know, the music and all that, and there are some scenes that are really fun. It's one of those movies that's definitely for the fans, and I've really grown out of Quentin Tarantino's movies these days. This just really isn't a great movie, and, you know, I'm sorry to say it, and I know critics love this movie, but, you know, can't always agree with the critics, can you, on this stuff, you know? Yeah, I'm putting this one in the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, okay. I would say, as visually good as it looks, and how,
if we base this off visuals, yeah, I'd buy it, but not this movie's not. Yeah, no.
It looks like it's just a shiny, pretty. They captured the time period. All that stuff but it's just not enough if your story sucks. And you know, this story sucks, and there's no point to it. It's just it just seems like a very egotistical driven production.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, and the historical twists being utilized in the narrative just were offensive and arrogant. And
well, speaking of offensive, before we get into the next movie, I did want to bring up one more thing. Quentin Tarantino just couldn't help putting racism in this movie, could he?
Oh, you know? Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
I don't even know what to say. Yeah.
That rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, it just came out of nowhere, and it's only in the beginning, and it's really out of place. Some people might argue that that's time period accurate. Yeah, but that maybe, I don't know. I'm not educated enough on that to give you a fair answer on that, but just that whole scene was like, it came out of nowhere, and it was kind of offensive, and it didn't really make a lot of sense, especially since it just really was random and didn't really make a lot of sense.
Which scene are you talking about? The Mexican scene or the...
Yeah, he just couldn't help putting that in there, and I was like, okay, so I guess since you can't say the one word that you usually put in your movies, you're just gonna make fun of somebody else then, apparently. Okay, I see how it is.
I mean, honestly, the most racist scene to me was the Bruce Lee interpretation, and Brad Pitt's making fun of his hi-ya, his hi-ya, just...
Yeah, that was offensive, too.
That was almost... If I'd been by myself, I probably would have walked out by that point.
I was not by myself either. So I was about to walk out when that scene was going on, and my friend like looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll stay here."
I was surprised that Brad Pitt agreed to make that.
Well, he saw the zeros, and that's why he continued to do it. I'm sure that's what happened.
And by the way, Brad Pitt is totally typecast in this movie. He just.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just he's got the whole. He's got his character down, and he's just playing himself, basically, it seems like.
Not that he's a bad actor. He's a good actor, and I think he just... I don't know, he just kind of bullshitted it.
He is a good actor,
I don't really think it was a good performance from him. I've seen him in so many movies where I've enjoyed him. This is a movie where he just... I don't know what he was going for, because part of me thinks that maybe he was just going for like a real human being who was like friends with like our main character, but I'm not sure because it's kind of an inconsistent character the way that he does it. So I don't know.
I thought he was just a leech, he was a leech to Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
Yeah, because he like
depended on him.
He was very nice to him the whole film.
Yeah, that's because he depended on him for his livelihood. So of course he's going to be nice.
And I thought it was like BS the way he was treating him. It was like he made him like live in a crappy home because he couldn't afford it. And like, I don't know, it was just stupid, the whole thing. I don't know.
So, this movie, I give it 0 out of 5 stars.
0 out of 5 stars. Put it back in the blue. Put it back in the Blu-ray bin.
Take it off.
Put
the
it back
shelf
in the Dollar Tree.
Take it off the shelf and take it to the back and burn it.
Yeah, just burn it. Just burn it. I'd rather watch Django Unchained than this movie again. At least that movie has a better story. But I don't know if you've seen that one or not. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, but I repeat my statement before. If Quentin Tarantino put out a movie with just poo on a plate, all his devoted fans would just die for it.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, we're going to take a break for a couple seconds, and then we're going to talk about Good Boys. And I'm going to serenade you with some melodica. Welcome back, everybody. It is me, Andrew, on the Andrew Stedl podcast, and Tex. We are now getting into Good Boys, and I think you and me both enjoy this movie, buddy. What do you think?
Yeah, this movie's a riot. This is awesome. My stomach hurt laughing at this movie.
Disclaimer, before we talk about this movie, spoilers, of course. But yeah, this movie is hilarious. It is probably one of the funniest films that I have seen this year, and I really can't think of another movie that has made me laugh this way and has made me question, is this okay for everybody to watch? Because there are some scenes where I'm like, I want to close my eyes because I don't know if I should be watching children doing this on screen.
Yeah.
But if you've seen the trailer, of course, you would know that already. But they don't really show everything in the trailer that's in the film. Because there's a lot of scenes that kind of go some places that will test whether or not you'll be able to watch this film or not. But this is a Seth Rogen produced film. He has done many films, some of varying quality, some are good, some are bad. What do you think of this film, Tex?
I agree with what you said. It'd been a long time since I've seen something so funny. Definitely the funniest movie so far I've seen this year in the movie theaters. It really reminded me of it reminded me of the type of comedy that White Chicks had. I thought that, just like you said, sometimes I was wondering whether or not it was a good thing with what they were portraying on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I was laughing, and let's get into the details, shall we?
Oh man, so there's the obvious, the kids are swearing and all that. That's, most people will rub that under the rug, like, okay, whatever, kids swearing, that's whatever. Well, what if I told you these kids are the most bullshitters and they think like they're talking a game and they are talking out of their ass like that they know what they're saying, but it's not really what they're saying is correct. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but I would also add that when you're a kid, that's just the way it goes, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You think you know something, and you know you may or may not be right sometimes, and sometimes you go off that and you say things thinking that you're right, and you're actually wrong, and that's part of the pain of growing up. And I was actually happy that they portrayed that on screen.
I will say this is probably one of Seth Rogen's produced movies that really does have a heart, and I do think that all three of these kids, which names are Lucas, Max, and Thor, I really thought that they had very good chemistry whenever they were having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I really thought that they were, you know, it wasn't like forced, and I didn't feel like they were reading off of lines on paper. I felt like they were actually having a conversation and like actually bonding, you know, and actually talking to each other and like expressing how they felt. I especially felt that Lucas's character's his story arc with his dad and mom getting divorced. I thought that was a really good arc, and I really appreciated that. Yeah. Because some kids do go through that, and they don't really know how to feel about that. And I'll get a little personal for a second. I kind of went through the same thing with my parents. So that was something that I really appreciated them putting on screen, where some kids do have a difficulty saying that, you know, with their friends, and they don't really want to open up about that because that might be too personal. And it's kind of deep for a comedy for that to really be in there, and I can't really think of a movie that has done it correctly, in my opinion. And this movie really did it very well for a comedy, actually.
I was surprised how many raunchy, sexually innuendo, like just nasty conversations.
Well, don't forget though. They do ask for consent. They do ask for consent though. They do ask for consent, which I do appreciate that. That's actually very important.
But I was surprised that despite this movie having so much of that raunchiness, that, like you said, they had the time to, they made the time to have a heart. They made the time to show the effects of divorce on kids. They made the time to show how life affects friendships. They made the time to show how little boys care, you know, like it was okay to, you know, there were some crying scenes, you know, each one of these little boys cried at some point, and not one time did the movie imply that this was weakness on their part. Never did it imply that this was feminine on their part, that they shouldn't be crying, that there was no one in the background or nothing in the back of the story telling you how wrong it is for little boys to cry and you need to man up. Or no, they embraced the fact that in friendship, you know, when you're little and you're a kid, you know, you do care about your friends, you know, whether it's a boy or whether it's a girl, you know, and again, they had all this raunchy humor, but yet they fit this in, and I was really, not only was I surprised about that, but I was very impressed. I was very impressed.
Impressed is the word. I'd agree with that.
Very impressive.
Because I've seen movies in the past from like Seth Rogen, and like it's nothing like that. Like he's obviously like grown as an adult for like what he wants to put on the screen. Because I go back to Superbad and that film, which is what this is compared to a little bit. I strongly disagree with that. I don't think this is the new version of Superbad, because Superbad didn't really have a heart. Every character in that film was just an idiot. And all they just wanted was to hook up with a girl. And yes, that's sort of kind of in here, because not necessarily though, because this one kid, Max, he wants to like, you know, he wants to get to the kissing party to kiss, you know, the main character, Brixley. And that's way different, and the way that they do it is actually very tasteful, the way they do it. It's actually like way more, like, got way more emotion to it than Superbad ever had, in my opinion. But yeah, this film is a little raunch. It's not to say that this movie doesn't have raunchiness, because, oh my god.
Yeah, you know, I never saw Superbad because I don't care for any aspect of it.
Well. It's not my...
Like it never stuck out to me and never struck a spark. with me. I've never seen it, but I don't know of any other movie that resembles this Good Boy. It's like any movie that I've seen, this isn't like any movie I've seen. It was very conflicting. And a good example is when they're crossing the highway. They're crossing the highway to get to the mall. And when that sequence started, and I knew that they're like, oh no, they're gonna try and cross this highway. Like, my first thought was like, this is not a good idea to put up on the screen. People die like this all the time. They think that it's okay to try and cross a highway, and it's really not. And having kids being portrayed trying to do it in a funny way, I'm like, this is wrong. I'm like, this is wrong. This is wrong, wrong, wrong. On the flip side, I was laughing so hard, and it was really funny and so I was conflicted. There's not a lot of movies that make me laugh so hard while at the same time I'm thinking that, I'm like, this is not right. This is wrong. I guess that's why I kind of compared it to White Chicks, because a lot of what they did in that movie was kind of wrong, but it was also very funny.
I'd absolutely agree with that. Oh man, that highway scene though, scene,
by the time it finished, honestly, my tummy hurt. I had tears rolling down my eyes because I was laughing. I couldn't stop laughing.
My favorite part that is very conflicting is like when they like all two of the kids have already made it. They successfully made it all the way there. The one kid is way too afraid to cross. And once he finally does, the car starts to crash, and then a body comes out of the car, and they start screaming, "Oh, we've murdered somebody!"
Yes.
And then they look at the body, and it's the sex doll that they sold earlier in the movie, and they go,
"Yes.
Oh, we're not murderers." I started to go, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm laughing, but I don't know how I feel about this scene.
I was squirming in my seat, squirming from laughter, squirming from like, oh no, it was kind of amazing. It was amazing that specific scene that you said, when by the time they get to the end and they're crashing, the cars are crashing. It's just amazing that they were able to make the audience be so conflicted. And it's like, are you going to laugh, or are you going to be like, oh no, or are you going to do both? It's just, I was doing both. I was like, oh no.
It's hard because there are a lot of scenes like that. There's especially one towards the end, which is the play scene, which, oh my god.
What, you mean the very end?
Oh, yeah, that scene was,
honestly, did it surprise you compared to everything else that came before? They were playing with dildos and anal beads.
Well, one scene that really conflicted me was, okay, so Max, Lucas, and Dora all get to the party, and they go downstairs, and Max's character, what he thinks that he has is a bracelet. He wraps around in a circle, and he gives it to Brixley, and he says, here you go, here's a bracelet.
Oh, a necklace. It was supposed to be a necklace.
And it's really anal beads, and she goes, oh, I'll put it on later. After she smells it, and I don't. And I don't know how to feel about that, because that's kind of messed up, but it's kind of funny at the same time.
Well, Lucas had prepared us for that, because when they first took out all those weapons, they mentioned those as weapons in preparation to go to the frat house, if I'm not mistaken, or was it just to go out in general?
Oh, no. Okay, so like they put all that on to they need to sell. Lucas needs to sell his card so that they can buy the drone, which is a whole nother subplot with two girls, Hannah and Lily, that they're trying to spy on them so that they know how to kiss, and then what basically happens is they lose the drone because, it gets stolen from the two girls because they're like, hey, what are you doing? You can't do that. We're going to tell your parents, all this, blah, 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 all that stuff. And basically they try, and I don't know what with the drone, I can't 100% remember, but like, whatever it is, I think that they tried to, use his phone, one of the phones, to try and fly the drone back, and then it gets destroyed by a bus. So then that's when they decide to start selling the card. and they find all that stuff in case that the guy that shows up, which is a really funny scene. So they're starting to wear all, the sex toys and all that.
Or for and the guy
that comes up, the guy who comes sees the kids all dressed up and they go, "Are you a pedophile?" And he goes, "No, I'm not a
pedophile."
And then they go, "Do I look like a pedophile?" And they go, "Yeah." And I just started laughing because I'm like, "Yeah, I guess he kind of does look like one."
He did look like a pedophile. And again, that's one of those scenes too where you're laughing and at the same time you're like, I can't believe that they're doing this. I can't believe that these kids are saying these things they're saying. I can't believe that the filmmakers are doing these things they're doing. It's really, again, it's impressive just how they mixed so many different things into this movie.
Well, especially how Max's character in one scene says, "Oh, my neighbor's a necrophiliac," or something like that. And they're all like, "What? Necrophiliac?" Some like long word that I can't even say. And the kids are like, "Oh, what does that mean? Does that mean she can have sex anywhere?" "No, that means she can have sex on land and sea." And I'm like, that's not what...
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta say, the comments from these kids, and all three of them, and Lucas, he had a different set of comments than Max and Thor did.
He's easily my favorite, though. I really liked how honest Lucas was, and he was just a kid who, he loved his parents, and I really liked that about him, because he was like, "Oh, well, I don't want to lose both you guys," and he was just really likable the way he was. I just thought he was, really funny, and, everything about it was kind of cool. And personally, maybe it's more because I just relate to his story arc. I think that's what it was. Because of the whole divorce. I really like that aspect of his role. But I do also like Max and Thor's role as well. Their story arcs.
Yeah,
Max
they're all
is probably
different.
my second favorite. It probably would go Lucas is my favorite story arc, Max is my second favorite, and Thor is my third favorite story arc, the way that they do his.
I really liked all three of them equally. Just their differences.
Oh, I like all of them. I like them individually
brought them together, as far as how the story progressed and how each one of them bounced off each other with their dialogue and their differences. And Lucas, yeah, his honesty made me laugh, he would say things honestly, and I was laughing because I'm like, why are you saying that? And so again, another confliction. I'm like, well, I'm conflicted. I'm like, he's being honest, so there shouldn't be anything wrong with that, but you shouldn't be honest right now. Right now.
Well, because he's just being a kid because he doesn't know any better because his parents have taught him hey, just be honest, stuff like that. And he's not doing anything particularly wrong, but he's kind of being just a little bit too honest, just about certain. Right. My favorite scene is when everything's all over and he's like, "And we went on this and we went there and we went there."
He told his parents everything.
His dad is like, "Oh, come on, tell me the real story."
They didn't believe him at all. He told them every single thing that happened. They did not believe him. That was amazing. I did not see that coming.
I want to give a shout out though to Lil Rel Howe, who plays his dad. Oh my God, he was really funny in the short scenes he was in.
I agree. He was.
Which you've seen Get Out, I'm assuming, so you know that's the guy from Get Out. Yeah, I really appreciate that he's getting roles now, and he's a really talented actor. He's actually very funny, which I appreciate him being included in this film. But then also Retta, which is Lucas's mom as well. She's also kind of funny in the couple scenes that she has, but
they were good. They were very small scenes.
Also, when the parents are on the screen as well, I do think the parents are funny as well. They do have very funny scenes. There's a really funny scene at the beginning with Max's dad where he's like...
I was very uncomfortable with that.
That was uncomfortable, but for me, I was like, I've been through this, so I can sort of laugh, but it's kind of an awkward laugh because it's weird.
It was very weird.
I've been through that, awkward. And I'm like, well, Will Forte did a really good job of putting a straight face during this scene and didn't laugh at all. But yeah, Max's reactions are definitely what a child would have to a dad saying that, and I really do respect that they went there with that. But yeah, it is a little weird, that whole scene of I won't say it because YouTube will demonetize us if we say something like that. But yeah, Oh man,
I want to mention the whole frat house sequence. So the two chicks, Hannah and Lily, and I want to shout out to Molly Gordon and Midori Francis. That must have been a tough role for them because the movie could have easily portrayed these two characters as just stereotypical, unlikable characters, but that was absolutely not the case. And the lead up to them needing the three boys to go buy their drugs for them at the frat house was at first the most ridiculous idea, and I thought there's no way they're gonna have these little boys go into this frat house and say they want to buy drugs. I'm like, that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be very realistic at all. No one in their right mind would sell a kid drugs just for simply walking into their frat house. But I was very impressed with how they made that sequence play out. And that was one of the funnier sequences as well, just like the highway crossing scene and the being on the sling and all the dildos and sexual objects being called weapons, and just the whole frat house sequence. It was another one where I was in tears laughing. My tummy hurt during that one too. I was completely shocked that they were really taking this sequence step by step. These kids are like, I want these drugs. These guys are like, I'm not going to give you any drugs. Like, look, we're going to get these drugs. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this.
Let's also mention that he's swearing at the top of his mouth, you're going to freaking give me these drugs.
Yeah. Yes.
It is hilarious. I love that part.
It was very funny. And the way that sequence ended, I was very happy. They slow-moed it. They showed you all the fighting. They bring out the paintball gun. It was such a great sequence.
I love the opening part where they go in there and they're like, oh, just wait here. And the one guy goes, go get him, Dad. And, yes, Daddy. And I'm like,
Daddy, yes,
he's
Daddy.
Your daddy? And then the other frat boys,
son?
The frat boys just look at him and then they don't say anything. I'm like, that's actually really good acting because they're just like, oh, whatever, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm too high.
Yeah, I'm not going to explain this to you, kid. Yeah, but I would definitely say that I would go see this again, and in fact, I'm anticipating going to watch it again when it gets to the discount theater, and I really want to go through this experience another time, and it'll be a movie I purchase when it comes out on Blu-ray.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. At some point, I'm going to make some time to go and see this again in the theaters before it drops, which probably isn't happening anytime soon because this movie is killing it at the box office right now.
Oh, is it really?
But yeah, dude, it's definitely already made its budget from the first week already. They're going to keep it in theaters for a while. But I will definitely most likely 100% be buying this on Blu-ray. That's definitely what I'm going to be doing because honestly, this is probably ballsy to say this, but it's probably one of my top 10 movies of this year because it made me feel a lot of emotions. It made me laugh. It had a heart. It's just one of those movies where I walked out and I said, this is just a good movie. I really like this movie. I don't really have any negative gripes with this film.
Yeah, I would say that as well, that it's definitely in my top 10 this year. By the end of the year, I'll be struggling to see if it's in my top 5. This movie's just impressive. And it's only impressive if you can handle raunchy, awkward, uncomfortable humor, but with a heart. Like you said, I completely agree that this movie has a heart. It has a soul. And there's more of a point in this movie than there was for
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, this movie has more meaning. This movie has more reason. It has more resonance. It really and it's not going to be everyone's thing. This movie is definitely not going to be everyone's thing.
Yeah, let's definitely say this is not for everyone.
No.
But if you do enjoy and you can handle raunchy humor, I would definitely say go check this out because it does that very well, but it does a really good balance of heart, emotion, humor, but actually does it like in a very good, like it mixes very well together. I think the way they did it.
Yeah.
It all mixes very, 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 very well. And I really,
yeah.
well, the thing is, this movie could have just been a raunchy comedy, and they could have just went with that, and it's probably still would have been okay. But they took the effort to put, the emotional moments and the heartfelt moments with the three of them together. And I think that they knew that they had something because all three of the actors really mixed well together, with the chemistry and all that stuff. I really think that's why they did put that in there because it did work.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. They could have easily made this movie just pure raunchiness. And it may have been just okay, but I feel like this movie turns out to be a little special because they did care to add more than just the raunchiness. Even though this movie is majority raunchy, it really is.
Oh, definitely.
But they took the time to make sure that there was a human side to decision making and reasoning and so it takes it to a different level than raunch, just a pure raunch fest. It has more heart than most raunch movies.
Well, I'd 100% say that because this film doesn't just go for like the shock all the time. There are times where they actually sit down and they go, hey, like there's that really good scene where they go, hey man, Lucas, what's wrong? And like, he just comes out and says like, yeah, like I've not been really feeling well because, my parents are divorced. And he's like, oh, I'm worried, that we're not going to like be together if like, my parents are separated and all that. And he's like, no man, we're still going to be together. And that was actually a really good scene. I really appreciated them adding that in there.
Yeah, I was surprised that they added it.
Because they could have easily said, oh, grow up, that's how life is. But they treated it with a lot of respect, and it really made sense the way they did that scene. And It didn't have to be that way either. It could have just been like raunchy and be like, oh, whatever, who cares? You're gonna get a stepmom and dad. But they didn't go that route, which I really did like. But yeah, this is definitely in my top 10, and we'll see how I feel in December. I'm gonna have to struggle to do top 5 as well. Because there just hasn't been a lot of good comedies this year. I don't know what's up with that. There just really hasn't been a lot of good comedies in 2019. But I don't know how you feel about that one.
I mean, call me cynical, but I just don't think that people know how to do comedies very well anymore. I feel like humor's taken a downturn in the society we live in now, and just gone are the days where simple humor just really like made a big splash. Now I feel like people just try too hard, and making fun of people on purpose and other people's expense is more like the norm than coming up with something truly original. And so I don't know, I'm probably not the best person to ask on this, but
right.
But this movie, I can't think of any other movie I've seen this year, brand new, that was this funny, man. This was freaking funny.
It's probably one of the, what I really like about this movie is it will test if you can watch it or not. I do appreciate that they went for that.
There were moments where I'm like, dude, this is so messed up. These are kids. They're kids.
But they're really
not supposed to have a movie like this.
I'll say this. The swearing didn't really bother me. Maybe that'll bother some people because some kids do talk like that. We have shows like Stranger Things that show that as well, kids swearing and stuff like that. Not to the degree that's in this movie at all, period. But, what's really more going to test people is definitely the scenes where like they're playing with the sex toys when they think they're like weapons. That's definitely one of the scenes that's gonna test people's patience on that one when watching it for sure. Definitely also the highway scene is definitely a highlight of the film. I don't know if I can watch this or not because I don't know.
I still think it's wrong, but it made me laugh like crazy. But it's wrong. But
it's wrong. It's wrong, but as I've stated before, that scene where like the body comes out of the car is just
that was wrong.
It was wrong, but like I found myself laughing. I was covering my mouth laughing and then just let it out because I was like,
me too.
I shouldn't be laughing at this, but like it's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, you heard it here, folks. Definitely go check this out. Go buy it. Go see it in the theater. It's definitely worth your money.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Again, thank you for having me on your podcast. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to talk about these two movies.
Had a really good time. I really did have a fun time doing this, man. I hope that whenever you and me have both seen a movie, that we can have this conversation again on a podcast format. I really enjoyed it. And as always, folks, we will see you later on the next episode of the Andrew Stedl podcast. And I will close out with the melodica for a couple seconds.
Peace.